Now let's start. Ask the MVPs and experts. We can go through introduction very, very quickly. Maybe.
Everyone must know us by now, sure.
I mean, I didn't see Manuel all day, so do people know who Manuel is? I don't know. All right, we should be fine, I guess.
Make it very
That's quick. Yeah, let's make it quick. We also have prepared like few questions up front, but we will skip some of them. But maybe just to keep the conversation going or start a conversation. So, what challenges are the most difficult to implement bridge operations? So, from your experience, maybe. So, what did you face when implementing bridge operations with customers? What piled up the most? What was the biggest pitfall? Maybe Manuel, do you want to start? I mean, after you finish your part, you know how much
Time I have to answer?
Sorry?
How much time?
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. No, honestly, I have not done that many implementations the last time, but I'm involved in some of those. So I guess the most challenges or difficulties when we're starting at the end implementing project operations is how clear is in the beginning what we want to achieve at the end. So how much time we can spend in pre-planning or detailing on what we want to achieve finally. Secondly, which is sometimes challenging as well, is the mapping of when we detailed it in the beginning, the mapping on to the capabilities of the product itself to identify the gaps in between, and then to identify the solution how to tackle those gaps. Obviously, there are always some gaps in the mapping because every company is differently. Every company, even if we have same or similar sounding processes, the way on how we want to implement it is never the same finally. And lastly is a huge strength of the product. So we have continuously updates, and if we have a running project which takes longer than 6 months, then we have the next wave update coming, when new features coming out. They could have again an impact on what we've done in the beginning. So pre-planning is really one of the most important steps on avoiding any challenges.
Awesome. Thank you.
Was it a minute?
No. Someone else wants to add something to that?
Yeah, maybe I can.
All right. So I've been to a lot of customers, probably too loud looks like. So a lot of times the challenges come when we want to fit their scenarios in project operations. Of course, we all know project operations is not an easy tool. First to explain them and gather their requirements, because a lot of them are doing a plethora of activities in Excels or different tools. To fit that all into project operations and make them understand this is how your new system will look like. It's first of the challenges, probably. And if at all we get to the end, we definitely get to the end. Of course, we are very proud of it that we do a successful implementation most of the times. Change management becomes one of the most difficult things, to get them to understand how to use the system and use it more effectively. That's something that comes to my mind as of now.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Maybe we have now two proMX people. Rupa, you're also involved in like a lot of support cases, escalations, customer meetings and stuff like that. So we're working a lot with partners. Maybe what is your experience? What is like the biggest challenge from the Microsoft side as well to deliver project operations to the customer?
For us, I think the challenge is I think the challenge that I see is, of course, every implementation, by the time it comes to us as Microsoft, the implementation has already gone south for various reasons. And so by the time it comes to me, honestly, it has gone so far down that there's a lot of mess to clean up. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of misdirection on all sides. So the sooner, I mean, I wish we could scale. We obviously cannot scale if we want to just review every implementation. And I don't think we as Microsoft can even handhold implementations with fast track support. Not every implementation can get fast track support. But the biggest challenge is just that, right? The miscommunication between the customer's needs, their expectations of the products, partners' understanding, implementation partners' understanding of the product, and miscommunications between end users and the customer's IT division. And what Manuel said it, and he said it really well. How much do you know at the beginning what end looks like? What does success look like, right? The more clarity customers have on that, the easier it becomes because you know everyone is going towards the same goal. That's, I think, the way the customer's understanding of what they want, the partner's understanding of what the customer wants, and what the product can do. It's those three, if they are aligned, that's the best case scenario. Implementations where the three are aligned, I don't get to know of them. They are all automatically successful. I see them in my telemetry board and I see them as a success story. I only see implementations where, that has broken, that triangle has broken. So oftentimes it's one or the other, right? Either there is misunderstanding between what the customer wants and what the partner understood the customer wants. There is also misunderstanding between what the customer's IT department thinks their end users want and what the end users actually want. So it's a lot of communication. I think that's the main challenge.
Yeah, totally agree. Also, maybe to add the skill level on the partner side, because like your operational operations implementation is very, very different from a Dynamics 365 implementation. You really need to do different upfront steps to understand what does the customer want, what is need, what is in scope for that, and then you need basically clarify some questions upfront before you even can set up the system. And I think with sales, for example, it's a bit more excusing at this.
It's easy and forgiving, and it doesn't need bespoke experiences, right? The very tailored business process and experiences. With project operations, there is a lot of expectation. There is a certain way WBS should look and work. There is a certain way that resource management should look and work. These are processes, whereas sales is directly on top of, experiences on top of tables. We cannot afford to build experiences on top of tables. What James Phillips, who was the past CVP, he used to call it forms over data. We cannot build forms over data. We have to build experiences over data. So in that case, we're building an experience that crosses multiple tables, and we are bringing out a business process in the experiences we build. So the experiences, the UX is very different from something like a sales application. Right? So yeah, that's always also, that puts some constraints on the partner's ability to extend and understanding of the platform becomes super critical.
Basically, you need a good partner. All right. For the sake of time, I think we can go for some questions from you guys. Is there anything after these 2 days that like burns underneath your fingers? That you want to? Yeah, maybe Kuldeep, can you?
No, I can talk louder.
All right, just
So one of the challenges that I saw in cloud implementation, like for project operations, was where do we stick to the standard and what is customized. Yeah? On the one side, proMX of course makes money from heavy customization. On the other side, the user ends up with something that he cannot use some standards and updates from Microsoft. So what's your take on this, maybe Microsoft and proMX? So what to take care of, and to draw the line what you really shouldn't touch in customization?
Yeah. So I'll take the Microsoft perspective, and proMX I'm sure will add their perspective. They're very knowledgeable consultants here. So from a Microsoft side, we understand customization and extension and configuration. Very deliberately. For us, those three are three different things. Configuration is something you can do in the product as a setup, and the product works in a tailored way. Extension is where you have some low-code extensions to our what we built. So you are using our business logic, you're using our experience and our schema, you're just enhancing it. So let our business process run, let our business logic run, then you do something to that logic. Or we have 5 fields, you add a 6th field. And how that field works, you decide with your plugins. Those are all extensions. We love extensions. We love configurations, obviously, because those are our product features. You configure and you get some benefit out of it. What we are always skeptical about is customizations. But we take pride in the fact that our application is customizable. We love it that it's customizable, but we want to, if you are building your own time entry solution because you don't like what we built, that's a problem for us. We want you to extend it. If you're building a risk management solution because we don't have a risk management solution, that's customization that we love. We want you to customize the modules we don't have. We don't have functionality for that. You build it, we like it, that you built it. And if that's good enough and if the partner is okay, we would love to, and if we see broad applicability, we would love to purchase that IP from the partner and incorporate it into the product. We like customizations like that. But when you customize to shut down our module and build your own, that is what we don't like and don't recommend. So don't go there, is our advice to our partners. We have seen partners who have shut down our pricing and built their own pricing. Why would you do that? I mean, that's ridiculous. Don't do that. So that's, yeah.
I think sometimes it's about having the strength to say no, and obviously sometimes when we're trying to, scope out and build these solutions, we want to be doing stuff, if there's a requirement, we want to be adding fields, customizing forms, making the system fit you. It's about just sort of, I guess, finding a balance, knowing what is, acceptable to customize and extend in an easy way, so maybe basic schema changes, customizing in such a way so the upgrades don't become a problem, but when a red line has been drawn, actually turn around and say, well, no, we can't do that, here's the reason why, let's find a better solution here, and or think about a different way of doing things. So it's about having that sort of, I guess, bravery, I guess, in that adult conversation. Okay, no, sorry, can't do this.
Yeah, maybe to add here, this extension part, so building a flow, extending the data model, maybe putting in like a new field for custom calculation. I think this is meanwhile 80% of our work, so we are not longer really rebuilding stuff which is already there, and I also not really a big fan of that. If there's something out of the box, we should use it and we should extend it that the customer can use it, because then as well, then at some point Rupa and her team, they decide to deliver a functionality that's beneficial for the customer, for you then in this case, we can still leverage that with our extension. But if we have rebuilt something for a lot of money, where we earn a lot of money, and then 2 months later, the product group comes up, okay, we are doing this now, we're doing risk management or whatever, and then we have 2 modules for risk management in the system, and you paid, sorry for a word, shit ton of money for the first one, and then there's one off the box, then this is like not our goal. So we're always, I'm a big fan of just extending it, and then further we can see, and then as you heard today, I think it's a very good thing to go into dialogue as well with the product group to provide the feedback and provide like what is missing or what can be extended. Wants to add? Of course.
Okay, it's not that so working. Let's do that.
Yeah, I think coming back to what I said as an answer for the first question as well, then I can try this one. Okay. Maybe again coming back, when you try to be too fast in the beginning, this is exactly where we end up in situations like that. So if you follow that, if you identify the gaps, and then it is, again, this costs money and this costs time, but in the ideal world, you would have time to have a look into to see how we could close that gap, and then you could build a rough POC to identify if this is a suitable solution. Then you have time to check. We know we do not live in the ideal world always, and then you need to take some assumptions to, for the sake of time, to be fast. But again, like I said, whenever we touch the system, we should be aware of what is running below the sea. But from an end user point of view, they will always struggle in, and I think this will apply for customer service implementation or for a sales implementation in the same way. When you're done with the implementation, and a normal end user is not able to identify what is there out of the box and what was done in addition to the out of the box features to serve our business needs. So if you compare the system, different customer scenarios, they always look different from each other. The processes are different, even even in the simple. But this is the strength of the platform itself, to be adaptable, to be changeable, to be configurable, or as well extended. But we need to be careful in certain areas, for sure.
I mean, also worth mentioning, Joe was saying this, it's also sometimes important, maybe not directly saying completely fully no, but it's also beneficial to get in contact with Microsoft, with the product group. So when we can say, like, is this feature what you need as a request so elemental, we can check with the future roadmap with Microsoft. Maybe we have this in scope for, I don't know, next year. So we are asking you as a customer, is it worth it waiting 1 year, you get it out of the box, supported, provided by Microsoft, or do we do something custom, not supported, we need to maintain, update all the time? And also other way around, if you have a request, not part of the product, but what makes really sense for the product, Microsoft sometimes also built this. So we can have a prototype with Microsoft, evaluate the implementation, do some implementation, and at the end it's getting part of the product. So this is also working sometimes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
I
the
hope.
thing is, for example, when customers tell you, don't build our system as a replication when you are implementing project operations. But when we start, they actually fall back and start telling us to build the same what they have.
So it was green in the old system. Why now it's not green?
Exactly. So it is something coming from the top down, also top management, like ready for change. So that's something which needs an adaptation to move towards a different angle as well. That's where extension will definitely help by putting the platform in place and then extend.
Right. I hope someone took a picture of Manuel arguing with 2 microphones in his hands. Yes. Okay. Do we have more questions from the audience? The past days, what came up to your mind? Yes, Order.
From what I understood yesterday, the expense OCR and the expense mobile app are not coming for the light deployment. Did I understand that correctly? And if so, what steps are you taking so that customers who have the light deployment won't feel more and more like, you know, second-class citizens, so to say?
Ask proMX. How I mean it, because at that point, when you want to have an expense solution, and we can't use the expense solution which is fitting to F&O, then there's also other possibilities to help. But that is a very common question which we answer exactly like that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert. Sorry to interfere.
So we don't have expense, is probably the only module. We haven't built it on Dataverse. We don't have any intention to build it on the Dataverse side because we have a strong solution in F&O. One of the things that I want to mention, this is not to say that light deployment folks should feel like second-class citizens, right? Overall, the same could be said of F&O customers of ours, right? They say, oh, why isn't superior project planning coming to F&O? We want to use it there. And they should not feel like second. It's not so much about, any customer being less important. we as an engineering organization cannot scale to build the same function on two separate platforms. We're just not able to scale. That's why we have made a decision that certain modules will be enhanced in certain platform, in a certain platform. So that's why we said, okay, sales, project planning, resource management, timesheets, and proforma invoice will only be on the Dataverse side. Expense, invoice, customer-facing invoice, and revenue recognition will only be in F&O. And the reason for calling that distinction is also to align with people who understand accounting. Will be in F&O, and therefore those modules make more sense in F&O. And if you look at our expense module usage in F&O, right, there are a lot of solutions in the market that help you with expense. It's a very low entry barrier kind of module. So either we build another expense entry solution in Dataverse and then try to sell it, or we just rely on whatever expense experience we have in F&O. And even in F&O, a lot of our customers who use project management in F&O do not use expense because they are either using Expensify or Concur. And we don't want to go head-to-head very deep into expense management space. That is also as a strategic decision made by Microsoft. We'll rely on expense management more as a way to get expenses recorded for projects and also expenses being reimbursed for employees. And that reimbursement functionality obviously is managed as accounts payable in F&O. And so that is the goal of that expense management module that we have in F&O. And that's why we are not enhancing it like a true expense management application so far. It's more as a way to record it in projects and reimburse. Anyone has any follow-up thoughts about that? On that strategic decision of not building a full-fledged end-to-end expense management module.
Or for Siemens, we don't need it because we have SAP and SAP subcomputer in place.
Yeah.
So from Siemens side, we are fine.
Yeah.
At least in that part.
I think to sort of speak generally and without pushing proMX too much, perhaps, one of the benefits of the ecosystem is that there are a lot of ISV partners. The partner ISV community is here, for those sort of requirements. So where there are gaps in the product, you first of all look and evaluate, as Daniel was saying, what's the roadmap looking like? Is it going to be a near or future term sort of thing? Okay, let's now look at the app source level. Let's see what we've got from an ISV standpoint. So in our case, we've got PPM and mobile time tracking and things like that. And then at that point where it's fully established, it's not going to be there, there's not going to be a partner solution available, maybe then it's a conversation about how we can build a custom. That's the general thought process I'd advise most people to go through.
And I can confirm in this forum, we have no intention of building an expense management model.
Coming back to what was said before, now we're allowed to enter the area of extensions.
Yeah.
That is what we did with a lot of customers already. Partisan solution looks for one customer, the other customer potentially as well different, and this then as well to be configured in the right way. So from that point, it is a possibility. And we do have, I would say something like an add-on or even a pre-add-on goes in that direction.
But again, in that way, so if we would go in that way to replace with what has Microsoft built in finance would not make sense, because whole accounting payable, accounts payable and so on, to rebuild that, this logic would not make sense. So the things what we have done in that area is more about we want to set up a travel, we want to capture if there are any per diems which needs to be paid based on the travel our consultant did, for example, and that he has an easy way to just scan the receipts he collected, and then they are added as expenses to the project. And now at the end, anything else is then only part of the integration to the ERP system, that we send the receipts there which were collected. But it's not the same set of scope what we see on the finance part. It's much easier scope. But in that way, it is feasible.
And it's a very deep area too, I would say. Expense management is a deep area. per diems rules are different from country to country, and policies are different from country to country. A lot of the apps that you see in the market, they actually have a shopping experience. First, you select your flight, and you can see a choice of flights. They almost work like travel sites, right? They show you the hotels and flights and that are within policy, outside policy. We don't have an intention to build that kind of an experience. For us, it's more about after you have taken your travel, log it against the project, and that's what FNO is doing actually. It is not having a shopping experience of cars and hotels and flights. It's just after you have done incurred the expense, just log it, and it will, and country-specific rules and policy jurisdiction is applied, and you get some messaging about whether that expense is compliant or not compliant.
Right. I think officially we are on time, Katharina, right? Is there anything planned right now for closure?
Yes.
So is there any like super priority question right now which we need to answer?
Question.
Yeah.
Question for Rupa. What's your favorite project operations partner?
This is the answer.
It's very risky for proMX now.
With the crowd here. proMX is my favorite. And then I go to the next part.
You need to pay an additional $20.
Yeah. Speak.
Yeah, I hope you have more wine or something. All right.
I think Ansgar had.
No, but it's really too egoistic to come now to monitoring capabilities. Maybe nobody else wants to. But performance and monitoring is still some pressing point of all cloud tools, because basically the cloud providers, they promise us, you don't have to have this management layer, this system admin layer. We take care of it. Now in real life, there are users that feel application is slow, they come to the IT department, and we say, we don't see something. Yeah? So I log in, it's fast, but we are missing like structured overviews. This functionality on this morning was really slow, and 10 people tried to use it. And I know, Joe, in Azure, everything is possible, but not out of the box. I saw a little bit now in this Power Platform admin thing. But it's just a small start, and we still don't overall have this visibility. And I think the original hope, everything is cloud, everything is taken care of. Don't worry about performance. It's also not holding up to reality. So is there anything that you are planning?
It would be interesting. We have.
And it's sorry for such a technical question.
I have something. There was an announcement about, I think it is a public preview, about the log analytics integration.
Yes, there's a monitor functionality for Power Apps in general. So it's just we are talking on a platform level now. So it's not specific to project operations.
And Azure, I know, but it's not out of the box at all. So what would be helpful is something like, you can really say the complaint about stuffing a certain page is slow. You can see, okay, at 10 o'clock they were right, following people were affected. Currently it's just word of mouth. Sometimes we don't see it, but we have no proof of any objective measurement. And we get it now in this Power Platform admin.
Yeah, I guess
for custom apps, at least the loading time, but it's not really sophisticated. Is there anything that you plan, or do you understand
I know.
or are we the only customers that sometimes talk about performance?
I'm sure many customers would have. I don't think you guys are alone there, but I'm not aware of it. Let me go back and do my research about that and see where we are at and what we get from the platform and how we can surface it within Project Ops, if there is any scope for it.
Yeah.
But I'm not aware of that. But it sounds like a very...
We had some experts from Microsoft, but they say I see something, but it shouldn't be quote me, they can see it, but we couldn't.
I see.
I think the nature of the platform in terms of there's lots of different product teams. Obviously, you don't have any direct responsibility over data versus a platform and all that sort of stuff. What's happening is there's a lot of investments going into things like the managed environments, making sure the data and information surfaced up there. There is a premium attached to using managed environments because everyone needs to be licensed with a Power Apps user. Yeah, but you'll get much more capabilities sort of that way. And also we're seeing, I guess, a general trend, capabilities that traditionally were in things like the CME kit around monitoring and stuff. Again, that serves stuff from a managed environment standpoint. So stick managed environments, I think, over time, you'll start to see that maturity is my view.
So it's not on the PO level, but really on the...
We monitor, though. I should say, we monitor from our telemetry. We monitor what we call as key scenario index. We nominate certain scenarios and we say, okay, let's monitor this scenario across different customers. And one of the scenarios, like I was talking to another gentleman this morning and I was showing our key performance investments. We nominate, like for example, invoice creation and invoice confirmation and update pricing, where the top 3 scenarios we are optimizing for performance improvements. The way we chose those scenarios is based on our telemetry that this particular scenario takes very long across different customers. And we see that and we say, okay, this is the one we need to invest in, guys. This looks really bad. These metrics look really bad. So yeah, we do monitor, but it's what we monitor is that scenario, those plugins, those 1, 2, 3 select plugins that accrue to one scenario. Now, your perceived performance is a combination of product business logic plus custom logic plus any network latency, right? So that I'm not sure how much we can, get a detail of why did this plugin take so long, or why did this process that user clicking one thing to then getting an outcome. What is product code, what is custom code, what is network latency, and the breakdown between that.
Next step, but even the original thing confirms the user's impression. Did we have an issue? Currently,
that's where maybe it's a question, okay, where were you when you were using the app? Were you on the Deutsche Bahn, going at 200 miles per hour?
But nobody has effect.
In order to know if you've had an issue, you do need that level of detail.
And I know some Microsoft guys, I think it was telemetry that they talk about.
Yeah, we measure.
You can't always call them to say, this morning at 10 something. Yeah. Okay, but thanks.
Yeah.
So maybe something. Sorry. No.
But I think there should be something we need to implement as well. You also know Power Automate, you need to add logging, logic apps, you need logging, all the external services as well. Just imagine like you have it in the Azure DevOps. There's this health monitor page. You see it by region, how is the status. You would need something like this for Dynamics as well. Just back some weeks ago, some content delivery network was going down. So if you have some forms loading slow, maybe, I don't know, the user was sitting in Austria for that day. So you also need to maybe measure the load performance of the forms used for the apps. So build in own telemetry, seeing like where's the user located, is he in a VPN?
And we had some user stories around that, if I have it right in mind.
I remember.
Yeah, so basically a tool to use there for this custom telemetry is Azure Applications Insights. That can track everything, including custom events. What you also may want to look into is Microsoft Clarity. That's perhaps something that can record as well the customer session, or the user session basically, and as well brings you some telemetry on that. But I think it's additional licensed. Good. Then I think we are closing this panel. Thank you so much, Rupa, for joining, and thank you as well my fellow proMX lovely colleagues to join here. And thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for showing up. Thank you everyone from proMX side to be here and to organize that very well, great event here. Thank you for Peter to make this happen. And
thank you for thank yous.
Thank you. Thank you.